Hello everybody, it's Mr. Second Amendment. This is going to be just a quick little video. I'm actually on my way to work and I'm going to be doing a live stream tonight. So this is actually my first video I'm doing in the truck while I'm driving. I just want to talk about a couple things. We definitely had a pretty crazy past couple weeks here. We're going to be talking about that in the live stream tonight for sure. But tonight there's a couple key points I want to focus on. It's a live Q&A, so you guys can jump in anytime you want with your questions, as always. But I really want to work on a couple key topics for tonight. One, for starters, is going to be kind of my impression of President Trump, going back to the campaign season back in 2015, even before that, moving into some of the really good things I liked that I saw during his presidency. Also, a lot of things I didn't like, the things that was not a fan of. Next thing, and that's all going to be important because he's kind of the pivotal character that's kind of tied to all of this one way or another, because the next topic I want to talk about, it was kind of a flash in the pan. It was there and then it went away, at least for now. The key phrase being for now. But the ATF kind of messing around with Q, the company that does the sugar weasel and the honey badger and all that, and then taking a step further to talk about their impending desire to change their qualification on pistol braces. So of course, for those who don't know, a pistol brace is a stabilizing brace designed for those with limited mobility, and they actually want to shoot an AR pistol or an AK pistol the way at least the law defines part of the definition of a handgun, shooting it one-handed. So being able to strap that on the forearm and make that happen, and that's been legal for almost a decade now, about 8 years. Stabilizing braces in one form or another, from SB Tactical kind of getting started. There's a bunch of companies now that do it. There's some big name manufacturers like Sig Sauer, Springfield Armory, even Ruger, Daniels Defense. There's a number of big companies that offer some of their ARs or some of their product lineup with a brace on it coming from the factory like that as a pistol. Millions of units have been sold over the years. Pistol braces have constantly been a legal thing for, again, almost a decade, many millions of units sold. The ATF was interested in reclassifying, pistol braces and kind of doing this, I can't really define what pornography is, but I'm going to know it when I see it kind of rule of measure, which is it's not anywhere within the law. They opened up a public comment period for 2 weeks, is how long that was supposed to last, and that's the federal government, chiefly the ATF, will do that when they're looking at a policy change or determination change, or how they're going to change moving forward, and they want to hear feedback, or they have to hear feedback from the public. So that period ended sooner than 2 weeks because the ATF totally dropped it, at least for now. So the second item I'd like to focus on tonight is going to be just that quick discussion of ATF looking at reclassifying braces, or trying to take a holistic approach. We need to see the whole rest of the build, to really determine if this is a rifle or illegal SBR, or it's in fact a pistol with the brace on it. The brace itself that we've authorized, and given that guidance on is no longer enough, is what we're looking at. And then suddenly that went away. Again, the key word being for now. So that would be the second thing I want to talk about, because I think we're going to see some more drama show up with pistol braces again. And you guys can get the full rundown of the Biden administration, of what they would like to do when it comes to the Second Amendment, potential assault weapons bans, magazine capacity bans. All of that I've detailed in my last big almanac, where I talked about Biden's gun control, is I think what I labeled it. So at the end of the day, that's going to be option number 2, or item 2 I want to focus on, which, the ATF completely withdrew it for now, but I do not think for a second that that's going to be the last we're going to see of that. So we got to stay vigilant. Definitely want to talk about that. Next thing we need to talk about, which was supposed to be really the big story on January 6th when all the votes were really getting tallied, is the Georgia runoff election that was held on January 5th. The reason why that mattered so much is because that was going to determine the final composition of the Senate. So, there was a race going on there that would basically determine whether there was going to be an equal amount of senators from the Democrats and the Republicans, if the Republicans were going to have a majority, and that runoff ended with both Democrat candidates winning. So the Senate is not going to have a Republican majority. What does that mean? There still are senators like Joe Manchin from West Virginia. He's a Democrat, but he's not down with gun control or packing the courts or anything like that. At least he said for the years following up. He's also one of the yay votes for Justice Kavanaugh during his confirmation. So you do have some senators on the left side of the aisle that actually don't caucus all the time with the Democrats, so that could mix things up. So that's something we want to talk about tonight as well. And kind of the last big thing, kind of the elephant in the room thus far, is what we saw happen at the Capitol on January 6th. Now, that in a nutshell, to me, that was gross. That was embarrassing, and it was really upsetting, at least to me. I've spent time in actual places where, some shithead group is going to show up and like, oh, we know that you won the election, but we have a bunch of guys and a bunch of guns. We don't care. We're just going to cut some heads off. We're just going to make things happen the way we want them to go. I've lived in places where you got to worry about some group of armed dudes rolling in and just taking over. And, the established rule of law or the established leadership or the legal entities that were in control of the town or the city or the village, they were just ousted, by basically thugs with weapons imposing their will and, totally circumventing the constitutional process of that country. I've lived in places that were it was lawless wasteland. You'd have things like that going on. And every time I've come back to our country from a deployment, it's always looked that much more beautiful to me. That this is like Disneyland or Disney World. This is like, we have laws. We have a constitution that's been functioning for almost 250 years. Like, we have a constitutional process. And whether you like the Electoral College, whether you hate the Electoral College, whatever your thoughts are, this is our constitutional process. And to have a rally and then, to have a moving to the Capitol building, and once we start leaping off that cliff of First Amendment activity, where we're starting to smash things, break things, deface things, steal documents and electronic devices, and make an absolute shit show of our country for the whole world to get to see. That's probably one of the worst parts right there. Besides the fact that, our elected representatives were in the middle of a constitutional process that the Senate or the Congress has been doing for over 150 years without fail, the same exact way every time, every election, in the middle of a constitutional process certifying the electoral votes, which had been certified by all the governors of the states. And President Trump did lawsuits and recounts, and it went up to the Supreme Court. He tried all of his legal options he's entitled to. And at the conclusion of that, it kind of is what it is, that Biden won. We still got people walking around who refuse to believe that. And what data are we looking at? Just the votes aren't there. And in the middle of the constitutional process to certify those votes and formally, legally by the Constitution, this is all Article 1 now, and actually moving into Article 2. All right, legally certifying the election that Joe Biden was going to win because the votes were there for him. He won. And this mob comes in, starts destroying everything, making a huge shit show. If there's any golden nugget of at least hope, is that the vice president, Mike Pence, once everything had been secured, they got all the rioters out and all that stuff, in his own words, he's like, here we are meeting on the same day. We're going back to the constitutional process. We're going back to our jobs. And on the same day that this happened, we're going back to work. And we're not going to be intimidated or changed, in our path. We have a constitutional process. It is our job to do it. So we're going to continue work and do it. And that whole thing will go into detail tonight on the live stream. But those are the topics I want to talk about tonight. So if you guys have input or questions, get them ready. It's going to be 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time tonight, January 14th. And, we're just going to talk over all of it. So look forward to seeing you guys there. If you guys have differences of opinion on different things, I want to hear them. That's what's great about this country. We can all have different views on how we feel about certain things going down. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys tonight.